Hey guys, welcome to my dubstep tutorial. Real quick at the beginning, I want to give a quick disclaimer. This video is only for high IQ people, so if you don't have a super high IQ, this video is probably not for you. You're probably not going to understand the advanced concepts in here, so go ahead, feel free to click off and watch something else. If you do have a super high IQ, then keep watching. You're going to learn something great here today. So first off, you probably already noticed that there's a big problem with this project. If we go over here and look at our time signature, you realize that this is a 4/4 time signature. That is a very basic time signature. It's something that a low IQ person would do. So what we want to do is take this first value and just set it to some prime number, some random prime number. For this tutorial, we'll choose 11, but it could be any number. Honestly, the higher the number, the higher the IQ. So just keep that in mind when you're making your own songs. But for this sake, we'll do 11. So let's go ahead and create our drum pattern here. So for a drum pattern, what we want to do is we basically, normally in dubstep, we do the kick at the beginning, and then the snare goes on 3. In this case, since we're actually high IQ people here, we're going to just choose some random positions for these notes. So let's go ahead and just create this pattern. Almost done here. Alright, so there's our pattern. You can tell it's good because it doesn't have any kind of internal symmetry or anything like that. It's pretty much random. So now that we have that pattern, we'll go into our synths. Now normally when you make a dubstep track, you're going to want to create a bunch of different synths in your drop, but again, that's what a low IQ person would do. High IQ people will only use one sound in their drop. And the other thing is, normally when you make a dubstep drop, you want your sounds to be good, but we're using the high IQ approach, which is to make the sound as bad sounding as possible. So in order to do that, we'll create a sub-oscillator, and then we'll create a few other oscillators. So normally when you're creating a sound with multiple oscillators, you want these oscillators to have some sort of relationship to one another, especially to the fundamental frequency of the sound. But again, that's a low IQ approach. What we're going to do here is just set some random values here, make it sound as grating to the ear as possible. We really want it to sound bad, to the point where you consider just uninstalling your DAW and never producing music again. So let's see if we've achieved that. Yeah, we're pretty close already. That sounds pretty disgustingly bad, but we can make it sound even worse. What we can do here is add a comb filter, so that'll make it sound bad. Yeah, pretty bad. Now let's go ahead and add some more effects to make it sound even worse, so you can turn the hyper on to some absurd values you would never use in the actual track. There we go, sounding bad. Let's just add some distortion. One thing we want to do actually is make this a pluck sound as well, so just add a little envelope in here and apply it to a bunch of random stuff, especially to these levels, because we do want it to sound like it's plucky. Let's go ahead and set this one, and then let's add some more effects. So we can add the chorus again, just some absurd values that you would really never use. That's going to make it sound bad. Yep, that's what we're going for. Now we can add the delay in as well to make it sound even worse. So just bring these values down to some random values down here. Nice. Alright, so now that we've got that, let's add one more thing, just to make it a little pluckier. So now we have our inconceivably bad sounding synth. And now what we want to do is just make a pattern with it. So let's go ahead and create our MIDI pattern here. And what we want to do is just create a simple pattern like this. Alright, so that sounds kind of bad, but we can make it sound worse. by actually randomizing the notes. So you can see it's playing the same note. I could go in and like draw the notes in, but that's a low IQ approach to doing this. What you really should do is just throw a random MIDI effect on here and just let that choose the notes for you. And you might say, well, that's not in the scale, but that's actually good. It's best if the notes are completely random and have nothing to do with any kind of scale or key. So now I'm going to go ahead and randomize this even further. The problem now is the rhythm is the same the entire time, and when people listen to your track, if they can recognize the rhythm and hear it repeating, they're not going to think you have a very high IQ. So we want to change that, and the way we're going to change that is we're going to go ahead and set a groove. It could be any groove. Doesn't matter which one you choose. And then just turn the random all the way up. And then change the bass to a quarter note so that it's even more randomized. And now if we play this, so now you could probably hear what I'm going for if you happen to be a connoisseur of like advanced dubstep techniques. You probably are familiar with an artist that makes this style of music that we all know is probably the highest IQ artist in the genre. So this is just what I'm trying to teach to you guys, is how to get on that level. So now we can duplicate this pattern 5 or 6 times, and then go down to this little thing down here, and you'll see where it says chant. Just move that down, so now it's going to like randomly choose between these notes we've created. So play that. Okay, so that sounds pretty bad, but all you have to do is just take your rack that I know all of you have that just has an absurd amount of plugins in here to make it sound as stupidly loud and aggressive as possible. So now we can play it again. Okay, yeah, and obviously like the envelope's a bit too long. And there you go, there's your song. Just be warned when you do put this up onto a platform like SoundCloud or Spotify, or if you put it on your YouTube channel, just be aware that people will probably start calling you a god of dubstep, or saying that you are like the next coming of Beethoven, or that you're breaking boundaries, that kind of thing. And those things are all true, but don't let it get to your head. Just remember, you just happen to be a high IQ person, but that doesn't make you better than anyone else as a person. So just keep that in mind.